want to tell a story that is not our own, but that is relevant to us all. The Amazon rainforest of Brazil spans over 2 million square miles and is home to thousands of species of animals and plants. It is one of the few predominantly untouched forest environments where an abundance of exotic life resides. This is the image that comes to mind when imagining the Amazon. However, in reality, it is tainted with a history of environmental injustices. Deforestation is destroying the Amazon rainforest. Indigenous communities living within the Amazon in Brazil are faced with continuous suffering, making this deforestation and destruction a pressing issue.
There are an estimated 400,000 to 600,000 indigenous people living within the Amazon rainforest. Out of the 200 different tribes, 60 are still uncontacted. Indigenous communities, such as the Guarani, the largest tribe in Brazil, depend tremendously on the natural resources that the rainforest has provided them with for centuries. Their culture and livelihoods are inextricably linked to the Amazon. However, the Amazon is in indisputable danger, as its abundance of hardwood trees makes it a target for natural resource extraction by profit-seeking loggers across the globe.
Both domestic and multinational companies are claiming their stake to the Amazon's natural resources, demonstrating the globalization at work in this issue. Through long-term harvesting leases or subsidies, domestic Brazilian timber firms, multinational logging companies enter the Brazilian Amazon to clear-cut and devastate the ecosystem. The resulting effects of this deforestation are destruction to the land and livelihoods of those living on it, at the expense of expanding the nation's economic growth and international trade.
After plots of rainforest have been clear-cut, exhausting the land's value as a natural resource, logging companies move in, leaving behind massive patches of dry, arid land that was once part of the vibrant rainforest. As loggers search unauthorized areas for valuable hardwood trees, their hired gunmen survey the land for potential interruptions. This means that unarmed representatives from indigenous communities and environmental protection agencies cannot physically stop destruction in the rainforest. These intervening agents attempting to protect the forest by regulating logging are often met with violent resistance from the hired gunmen.
This is reflective of the power dynamics in the Brazilian Amazon. Indigenous communities that do not have land titles are continuously being evicted from their land so that juggernaut multinational corporations can set up camp to exploit and contaminate it. Economic modernization is a key incentive for the government to turn a blind eye and refuse indigenous communities' land rights. As financial benefits accrue from dealing with multinationals, the government justifies their actions. Brazil's economic push under President Dilma Rousseff has meant that indigenous communities are faced with even larger obstacles to overcome. In the political arena, indigenous people are already marginalized. Concerns of indigenous people are often not validated, as they lack political and economic clout compared to Brazilian elites in office, who are blindsided by the benefits of economic gain and multinational corporations abusing the rainforest for profit. Thus, communities are struggling to obtain the right to live on their ancestral land.
Fallen trees and the legalities of logging are not the end of the problem, though, as indigenous communities continue to suffer long after resource extraction by logging corporations have finished. Clear-cut land often falls into the hands of cattle ranchers, sugarcane harvesters, and soy farmers, furthering the destruction of the rainforest by destroying any potential for regrowth. However, the injustices of deforestation are more multifaceted than they appear. Many of the incoming ranchers, harvesters, and farmers are invading the rainforest only after having their own land taken from them. Due to its abundance of valuable natural resources, the rainforest is seen as an opportunity to many.
Once the trees have been cut and cattle ranches, sugarcane fields, and soy plantations established, there is little opportunity left for life in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. As livelihoods and cultures are left destroyed, native populations are faced with dire options. The members of indigenous communities are challenged to fight back, work on the plantations, or leave the rainforest entirely to avoid dying off. The majority relocate to cities in hopes of finding a means of income for themselves and for their families. Without marketable skills to ease their transition into cities, these people often become part of the lowest socioeconomic classes of society, left to navigate the unforgiving systems of an impoverished lifestyle.
The indigenous way of life is being destroyed, and the Brazilian government has done little to intervene. While attempts have been made to designate protected areas of the Amazon that are off limits to all groups besides indigenous communities, not enough is being done. Much of indigenous land is being demarcated, and indigenous communities are only receiving legal recognition for a small portion of what they have possessed for centuries. These crowded reservations are not adequate and cannot sustain all members of the tribe. Thus, many people living within this demarcated area suffer from malnutrition and much more.
We all have a stake in this issue. For example, soybeans are a staple in many of the foods we eat. However, most of this soy comes from outside of our own country, from places like Brazil. As consumers, we are obligated to be conscientious of our product choices. We must make concerted efforts to hold multinational companies to the highest standards of sustainability and justice, regardless of the spatial distance between where our products are produced and where they are consumed. The deregulation of multinational corporations within the globalized South, which allows for these unethical practices, cannot continue.
The injustices of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil are relevant to us all in the foods we eat, the structures we use, and the people with whom we share our planet. The time to act is now. Make informed choices and consider those affected across the globe. You can get involved by supporting the various environmental activist campaigns, writing to the Brazilian Justice Minister or local senators and members of Congress in order to put an end to illegal deforestation and the corresponding abuse of indigenous populations in the Amazon.